Hello YouTubers, this is the Noobifier with a follow-up to my 3D printer video which is linked up for you right now. I obviously focus mainly on videos for Star Citizen, but as I said in the 3D printer video, I have more than one hobby to keep my mind busy. This video came about from a desire to combine 3D printing and the channel, so let's begin. Today we're going to cover a couple things including tips that I've learned based on issues that I've encountered, a new piece of 3D printer hardware, and how I record a print time-lapse. We should probably start on the time-lapse. Anyone can make a beautiful time-lapse with a smartphone and a power cord. Set the camera in a safe place on a tripod, plug it in, and it'll stitch a set of pictures together at regular intervals into a video. It's super fun for sunsets, construction, I've seen it used for long-distance road trips, and some people use it to watch the tides come in and out. As a tool, time-lapse is great. The 3D printer needs to be structurally sound with tight tolerances, and to achieve this, while keeping the cost down, the main arm does X and Z, and the bed does Y. This will pose a problem for our time-lapse because both the print head and the base move. They do look fine, but they're actually quite hard to watch. If I can ensure that the printed object was exactly in the same place every time where the picture was taken, the object would seem to grow magically. So that's exactly what I tried to do. After doing some research online, I found that it was possible to tie the bed position to the camera exposure. The Mark III's does have additional ports on the motherboard and uses an open source design. This means that you can think beyond and tinker. By following the instructions to the linked post, I purchased an Adafruit feather, specifically the 32U4, and some breadboard leads from Amazon. The channel's about brevity and no BS. I have the original post linked up, plus I've made a backup. Those are both in the description. This guide is very specific to the Mark III's, however in talking with other creators, this is not unique to the model. The process is easy. You update the firmware on both the printer and the Bluefruit. You add a custom bit of code into both the Bluefruit and the project files that you plan to print with, you connect the power and trigger wires, and you're almost ready. I 3D printed an olive green case to protect the small circuit board, then I connected an older iPhone 5 SE as my camera, a little bit of light and a tripod, and it's worked flawlessly for me every time. You'll end up with hundreds or thousands of pictures which can easily be stitched together in Photoshop, and if it was done right, it looks awesome. Next, let's talk about some issues and fixes in no particular order. Having the first layer bed down properly is critical so that the part stays attached throughout the print. It seems obvious, but you need to ensure that the calibration is accurate and the first layer Z calibration is spot on. Choosing the correct settings for the intended filament in the slicer is also critical because different filament types require vastly different treatment by the printer. Adding a brim to your project will draw more plastic on the bed around the part, but this will increase the contact area for stubborn or very small prints. Some prints also need vertical support to print overhangs with precision. Always clean the bed with alcohol, windex, or acetone first to remove all contaminants, then preheat for 5 additional minutes before starting the print. I found that because I print in a basement and it's cooler, the bed may think it's warmer than it is, so this extra time cooks off the alcohol and it also gives better adhesion. Lubricate the metal rods and check the belt tension often. Minimize large changes in temperature around the printer by closing doors and walking more slowly when checking the project. The last tip leads nicely into the next section. Polymer filament is porous and absorbs humidity. When damp filament passes through the very hot print head, the humidity expands quickly as steam, which can really compromise your results. The filament product ships dry from the factory, and if left unopened, will last a very long time. If you use it once, it's very important to manage this humidity. You can use silica desiccant in an airtight container. You'll need to periodically change out the silica, which I keep tabs on with some very cheap humidity meters. The silica can be refreshed in the microwave, however, the best way to ensure that the print holds down right every time is with a dryer. A very good tip from a very good friend got me part of a Kickstarter for Print Dry. It's basically a food dehydrator, but made to support filament rolls. You have control over how hot and how long it runs, plus it's modular. I took an old roll that wouldn't print, and in a couple hours, the entire roll is refreshed and prepared for accurate prints. This isn't really a review on the product, more of an FYI that the product exists. It's a little bit louder than I expected, but it's in another room downstairs and you don't hear it. If I'm about to print, I usually take a roll in for 2 hours at 65 degrees. The heat dries and pre-warms the filament, which including the other tips that I mentioned earlier, has a high success rate for my prints. My first layer holds properly, even left at 100% speed. Strong binding between layers, no deformation, and better results. I would love for you to post up your questions, stories, and experiences with 3D printing. It's a very fun hobby that may force you to learn from your mistakes. Eventually, you start to understand how to approach the project to get the results done right. Thank you very much for spending your time with me. This is a community-supported YouTube channel that operates ad-free. If you'd like to support, please do. Print safe.